The crowd gathered like a pack of hungry wolves on the dusty main street of Redemption Creek, Montana Territory, 1876. Katherine Winters clutched her 5-year-old son Samuel tightly against her worn calico dress, her eyes darting frantically across the sea of unfamiliar faces. She never imagined she'd end up here being auctioned off like cattle to pay her late husband's debts, her son included in the sale as if he were nothing more than property. "Next up, gentlemen," the auctioneer bellowed, his voice carrying across the afternoon heat. "A fine, healthy woman, 24 years of age, good for cooking, cleaning, and whatever else you might fancy." His wink sent a ripple of laughter through the crowd. "Comes with the boy, starting bid is $20. Katherine felt her knees weaken. $20. That's what her life and Samuel's were worth now. Her husband James had been dead barely 3 weeks, killed in a mining accident that crushed not only his body, but their dreams of a new life out west. What he hadn't told her was how deep in debt he'd been to the mining company store and the local saloon. Now, the creditors wanted their due. "25, called a gravelly voice from the back. Katherine squinted to see a portly man with tobacco-stained teeth leering at her. 30, came another bid from a weathered rancher. 40, shouted someone else. The bids climbed steadily. Katherine's breathing quickened. Some men were bidding for a household servant and laundress. Others had far more sinister intentions glinting in their eyes. None seemed to care about the frightened little boy clinging to her skirts. $75, announced a slick-dressed man Katherine recognized as the owner of the local brothel. A hush fell over the crowd. The bid was unexpectedly high, and Katherine felt bile rise in her throat. "Going once," the auctioneer called, raising his gavel. "Going twice, $300. The deep, firm voice cut through the silence like a thunderclap. The crowd parted, revealing a tall figure at the back. Katherine strained to see the man who had just bid an astronomical sum. He stepped forward, and the crowd gave way. Sunlight glinted off his dark blonde hair as he removed his hat. Broad-shouldered and lean-hipped, he moved with the easy confidence of a man accustomed to the saddle. His worn leather vest and faded blue shirt were dusty from the trail, but there was nothing shabby about his bearing. "I said 300, he repeated, his green eyes meeting Katherine's for the first time. Something in that gaze made her breath catch not fear, but something else entirely. $300, the auctioneer repeated incredulously. "Do I hear more?" The brothel owner scowled but shook his head. "Sold." The gavel came down with finality. "To the gentleman in the back." The tall stranger approached, boots kicking up little clouds of dust. Up close, Katherine could see the fine lines around his eyes, a man who spent his days outdoors. A faint scar ran along his jawline, disappearing into the short beard that framed his face. "Madam," he said, his voice softer now. "My name is Adam Callahan. I own a ranch about 10 miles north of town." He knelt down to Samuel's eye level. "And what's your name, partner?" The boy half hid behind Katherine's skirts. "Samuel," he whispered. Adam smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes. "Well, Samuel, you and your mama have had a rough day. What do you say you both come home with me? I've got horses, cattle, and even a dog that's been wanting someone to throw sticks for him." Katherine found her voice. "Mr. Callahan, I don't understand. Why would you pay such a sum for decent folk who have fallen on hard times?" He straightened, meeting her gaze directly. "Because no one should be sold like property, Mrs. Winters, Katherine Winters, Mrs. Winters." He nodded respectfully. "I need help around my ranch. It's honest work with fair treatment. You'll have your own cabin, meals, and wages." He glanced at Samuel. "And your boy will be safe." "And what else would you expect in return?" Katherine asked bluntly, having learned the hard way that men rarely offered charity without expectation. Something like respect flickered in Adam's eyes. "Nothing beyond the work I mentioned. You have my word." Before Katherine could respond, the auctioneer interrupted, demanding payment. Adam counted out $300 in crisp bills, signed the papers transferring Katherine's debt to himself, and turned back to her. "My wagon's over there, if you have belongings." "Just one trunk," Katherine replied, still stunned by the turn of events. Adam nodded to a young man nearby. "Joey, fetch the lady's trunk and load it up." Within minutes, Adam was helping Katherine and Samuel onto the wagon bench. As they pulled away from town, Katherine couldn't help looking back at the crowd still milling about. For 3 weeks since James's death, she'd felt utterly powerless. Now, riding beside this stranger, she felt something she hadn't expected, a fragile seed of hope. "Thank you," she said quietly as Samuel nestled against her side, exhausted from the day's trauma. Adam's hands remained steady on the reins, his eyes fixed on the road ahead. "Don't thank me yet, Mrs. Winters. Life on a ranch isn't easy." "Neither is being auctioned off in a mining town," she replied with unexpected spirit. Adam's glance held surprise, followed by the ghost of a smile. "Fair enough." They rode in silence as the town of Redemption Creek faded behind them. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the Montana landscape, rolling hills giving way to distant mountains, the land painted in shades of gold and amber. It was beautiful country, Katherine thought, even if it had been cruel to her so far. "Your husband?" Adam asked after a while. "Mining accident, 3 weeks ago." Adam nodded, requiring no further details. "I'm sorry." "The debts were a surprise," Katherine continued, not sure why she was telling him this. "James was. He had a weakness for cards." "A common affliction out here," Adam replied without judgment. They crested a hill and Adam pulled the wagon to a stop. There it is, Callahan Ranch. Below them stretched a valley with a creek running through it. A large 2-story log house stood near a cluster of outbuildings. Pastures spread out in all directions, dotted with cattle. It was larger than Katherine had expected. "It's beautiful," she said honestly. "Been in my family for 15 years. My father started it, but he's gone now." Adam clicked to the horses and they began the descent. "It's just me, my foreman Hank, and 3 ranch hands." Katherine's mind raced with questions. Why would a man like Adam Callahan need her help? Why pay such a sum for a widow and her son? But exhaustion prevented her from asking more. As they approached the ranch house, a large black and white dog came bounding out, barking excitedly. Samuel straightened up immediately. "That's Scout," Adam said. "He's friendly." The wagon rolled to a stop in front of the house. A weathered man with a silver-streaked beard emerged from one of the outbuildings. "Hank," Adam called, "we have new arrivals. This is Mrs. Winters and her son Samuel." Hank nodded respectfully. "Madam, young sir." "Hank's been with the ranch since my father's time," Adam explained. "He knows more about this place than I do." Adam helped Katherine down from the wagon while Samuel practically jumped down, already captivated by Scout, who was dancing around the boy with obvious delight. "The cabin's this way," Adam said, gesturing toward a small but well-maintained structure about 50 yards from the main house. It was built for the foreman, but Hank prefers staying above the stables. "Old habits," Hank shrugged. "Sleep better near the horses." The cabin was simple but clean, one main room with a small bedroom partitioned off. A cast iron stove stood in one corner, a rough-hewn table and chairs in another. The furnishings were sparse but serviceable. "It's not much," Adam said, watching Katherine's face carefully. "It's more than we had an hour ago," she replied. "It will do fine." Adam nodded, seemingly satisfied. "Get settled in. Supper's at sundown in the main house. We can talk more then." After Adam left, Katherine sank onto one of the wooden chairs, the events of the day finally catching up with her. Samuel explored the cabin with the boundless energy of childhood, apparently having decided that a dog, horses, and the promise of cattle made this an acceptable new home. "Mama, are we going to stay here?" he asked, his small face suddenly serious. Katherine looked at her son, her husband's sandy hair, her own blue eyes, so young to have experienced so much loss. "For now, Samuel. For now." As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, Katherine washed their faces in the basin of water someone had thoughtfully provided. She changed Samuel into his cleanest shirt and attempted to tidy her own appearance, though she had little to work with. Her brown hair was pinned back simply, and her black morning dress, the only decent one she owned, was travel-worn. They walked to the main house together, Samuel skipping ahead as Scout bounded alongside him. Katherine felt a knot of anxiety in her stomach. This man had purchased them, essentially. What would life on his ranch truly entail? The main house was impressive, up close, solid logs and a wide porch spanning the front. Inside, It was surprisingly well appointed. A large stone fireplace dominated the main room, comfortable furniture arranged around it. The dining room held a long oak table that could seat at least 10. Adam met them at the door. He'd cleaned up, his hair still damp from washing, wearing a fresh shirt. He seemed somehow both at ease and slightly uncomfortable as he welcomed them. "Mrs. Winters, Samuel, please come in." Hank was already seated at the table, along with 3 younger men who were introduced as the ranch hands Tom, Will, and Liam. They stood awkwardly when Katherine entered, nodding respectfully. "Haven't had a lady at the table in some time," Hank explained, pulling out a chair for her. The meal was simple but plentiful: roast beef, potatoes, and biscuits. Samuel stared wide-eyed at the abundance before remembering his manners and waiting for Katherine's nod. Before beginning to eat, conversation flowed easily among the men, primarily about ranch business. Katherine listened, gradually piecing together an understanding of the operation. It was a substantial cattle ranch with several hundred head. Adam was clearly respected by his men, who spoke freely but deferred to his judgment. "Mrs. Winters," Adam said during a lull in the conversation, "I thought tomorrow Hank could show you around, get you familiar with how things run here." "Of course," Katherine replied. "And what exactly will my duties be?" The men exchanged glances, and Katherine felt her defenses rise. "Well," Adam said carefully, "we've been managing on our own since Mrs. Rodriguez left last year. She was our cook and housekeeper, but I won't lie, we've been doing a poor job of it." "I can cook," Katherine said. "And clean." "Good," Adam nodded. "The house needs a woman's touch, that's certain. And there's the garden that's been neglected, but I don't expect you to work from dawn till dusk. You'll have time for your boy." "And my wages?" Katherine asked directly, drawing surprised looks from the ranch hands. Adam didn't flinch. $20 a month plus room and board for you both." Fair? It was more than fair, generous even. Katherine nodded, though she couldn't help wondering again about his motives. After dinner, as the men moved to the porch for pipes and conversation, Katherine began clearing the table. "Leave that," Adam said. "Not tonight, you both must be exhausted." Katherine hesitated, then nodded gratefully. She took Samuel's hand and bid the men good night. As they walked back to the cabin in the gathering darkness, Scout accompanying them, she felt Adam's eyes following them from the porch. "I like it here, Mama," Samuel said as she tucked him into the small bed they would share. "It seems nice," Katherine agreed cautiously. "And Mr. Callahan is nice too, not scary like those men in town." Katherine brushed the hair from his forehead. "Yes, he seems kind." She kissed his cheek. "Sleep now. Tomorrow is a new day." After Samuel fell asleep, Katherine sat by the window, looking out at the starlit Montana night. The ranch was quiet except for the occasional lowing of cattle and the distant howl of a coyote. She thought of the auction block, of how close they had come to a fate she couldn't bear to imagine. Why had Adam Callahan intervened? What did he truly want? $300 was no small sum. Men didn't spend that kind of money without expecting something in return. Yet she had seen nothing in his eyes that suggested unsavory intentions. Still, experience had taught Katherine to be wary, especially of men who appeared too good to be true. James had seemed that way once, handsome, charming, full of dreams. She'd been 19 and naive, the daughter of a shopkeeper in Pennsylvania. James had painted pictures of their future out west: land, prosperity, adventure. What he hadn't mentioned was his fondness for whiskey and cards, or his tendency to borrow money he couldn't repay. Katherine sighed, watching the moon rise over the distant mountains. Whatever Adam Callahan's reasons, she was grateful for the reprieve. This ranch represented safety, at least for now. Tomorrow she would begin earning her keep, proving her worth. And she would watch and wait, and learn what kind of man had brought them home with him. Morning came early on Callahan Ranch. Katherine woke at dawn to the sounds of activity already underway outside: men's voices, horses nickering, the clang of metal tools. Samuel still slept soundly, and she took a moment to watch his peaceful face before dressing quietly. Outside, the world was washed in the golden light of sunrise. Ranch hands led horses from the stables, and smoke rose from the chimney of the main house. Katherine made her way there, determined to begin earning her keep immediately. The kitchen was spacious but showed clear signs of bachelor living dishes stacked haphazardly, counters cluttered with various items that had no business in a kitchen. A large wood stove dominated one wall, already lit and heating the room. Adam stood at the stove, attempting to make coffee. He turned when she entered, surprise evident on his face. "Mrs. Winters, you're up early." "I thought I should start as I mean to go on," she replied, removing her shawl. "Would you mind if I took over?" A look of relief crossed his features. "Please do, I'm terrible at this." Katherine set to work, quickly assessing what was available. She found flour, bacon, eggs, and the basics needed for a proper breakfast. Within minutes, she had coffee brewing properly and biscuit dough mixed. Adam leaned against the doorframe, watching her work. In the morning light, Katherine was struck again by how handsome he was, not in the polished way of city men, but with the rugged competence of someone who lived by his own strength and wits. "You've done this before," he observed. "I managed a household for 5 years," she replied, slicing bacon. "And helped in my father's store before that. I'm no stranger to work, Mr. Callahan." "Adam," he corrected. "If we're to live and work on the same property, Mr. Callahan seems overly formal." Katherine hesitated, then nodded. "As you wish, and may I call you Katherine?" She looked up from her work, meeting his gaze directly. "Yes, though most call me Kate." "Kate," he repeated, as if testing the name. "It suits you." Before she could respond, the back door burst open and the ranch hands filed in, bringing with them the smells of horses and morning air. They stopped short at the sight of Katherine at the stove. "Morning, Mrs. Winters," Hank said, removing his hat. The others followed suit, murmuring greetings. "Breakfast will be ready shortly," she told them, turning back to her work. "Real coffee and biscuits." Tom, the youngest hand, asked with undisguised hope. "And bacon and eggs," Katherine confirmed, unable to suppress a small smile at their obvious excitement. "The Lord provides," Liam said reverently, taking a seat at the table. Samuel appeared in the doorway then, hair tousled from sleep, Scout at his heels. The dog had apparently appointed himself the boy's guardian. "There you are," Katherine said. "Come wash up for breakfast." The kitchen came alive with activity men settling at the table, Samuel chattering about the dog, the clatter of plates and utensils. Katherine served the food efficiently, remembering who took coffee and who preferred milk, noting who cleaned their plate first and might want seconds. Adam watched it all from his place at the head of the table, his expression thoughtful. When Katherine finally sat down with her own plate, he raised his coffee cup slightly. "I believe this is the first civilized breakfast this house has seen in a year," he said. "Thank you, Kate." The men murmured agreement, and Katherine felt a flush of pride. It was a small thing, breakfast, but it was a beginning, a way to establish her place and her value. After breakfast, the men headed out to their daily tasks. Adam lingered, helping Katherine clear the table despite her protests. "Hank will show you around today," he said, stacking plates. "He knows where everything is or should be. Feel free to rearrange things as you see fit." "The kitchen certainly needs reorganizing," Katherine agreed. "The whole house does," Adam admitted. "It was different when my father was alive. He maintained certain standards. After he passed, well," he shrugged. "Ranch work took precedence." "How long has he been gone?" Katherine asked, sensing a story there. 3 years. Heart gave out during a winter storm." Adam's face revealed little, but Katherine sensed the loss remained fresh. "Been just me running things since then." "No other family," Adam shook his head. "My mother died when I was young, no siblings." He placed the last plate in the wash basin. "What about you? Any family back east?" Katherine's hands stilled on the dishcloth. "My parents died before Samuel was born. It was just James and me, and now." She trailed off. Adam nodded, understanding in his eyes. "Well, you have a place here now for as long as you want it." After he left, Hank appeared to give Katherine the promised tour. Samuel tagged along, Scout never far behind. The ranch was larger than Katherine had initially realized. Besides the main house and outbuildings, there were extensive pastures, a creek that provided water year-round, and even a small apple orchard that had seen better days. "Boss's mother planted those trees," Hank explained as they walked among the neglected apple trees. "She was a real fine lady, came from back east somewhere, brought civilized ways with her." "What happened to her?" Katherine asked, Fever took her when Adam was just 8. Hit the boss's father hard, never remarried, though plenty tried to catch his eye over the years. Katherine absorbed this information, piecing together the history of the Callahan family. And Adam never married, Hank gave her a sideways glance. Been too busy building the ranch. There have been ladies interested, of course. Good-looking man with a fine spread like this town girls come sniffing around regular, but the boss, he keeps to himself mostly. The tour continued to the vegetable garden, now overgrown with weeds, but still showing signs of its former productivity. Mrs. Rodriguez kept this up real nice, Hank said. Grew all manner of vegetables. Sure would be nice to have fresh greens again instead of just beans from the mercantile. I could restore it, Katherine offered, already mentally planning what might still be planted this season. That'd be mighty welcome, Hank smiled. Anything you need for it, just tell the boss. By midday, Katherine had a clear understanding of the ranch's layout and a mental list of tasks requiring attention. The main house needed a thorough cleaning, the kitchen demanded reorganization, and the garden called for immediate work if they were to salvage anything this growing season. They returned to the main house for the midday meal, which Katherine prepared from leftovers and fresh bread she'd baked that morning. After lunch, while Samuel napped in their cabin, she began tackling the kitchen, sorting through cupboards, discarding stale or spoiled items, scrubbing surfaces that hadn't seen proper cleaning in months. She was on her hands and knees, scouring a particularly stubborn stain on the floor when Adam returned earlier than expected. Katherine looked up, wiping sweat from her brow with her forearm, suddenly conscious of her disheveled appearance. "You don't have to do everything in one day," he said, removing his hat and gloves. "Best to start as I mean to go on," she replied, sitting back on her heels. This kitchen was in desperate need of attention. Adam surveyed the already visible improvements: clean counters, organized shelves, the gleaming cook stove. "I can't argue with that, but pace yourself. The mess didn't happen overnight." Katherine stood, brushing her skirts. "I'm accustomed to hard work, Mr. Callahan." "Adam," she corrected herself. "I don't shy away from it." Something like admiration flickered in his eyes. "I can see that." He hesitated, then added, "I came back early because there's a supply wagon heading to town. I thought you might have a list of things you need for the house." Katherine's eyes widened. She hadn't expected such consideration. "Yes, actually, there are several items that would be helpful." She quickly wrote out a list: soap, flour, sugar, spices, cloth for mending, seeds for the garden. Adam looked it over, adding a few items of his own. "Is there anything personal you or Samuel need?" he asked. "Clothing, perhaps." Katherine hesitated, pride warring with practicality. "Samuel could use new shoes. He's growing fast." Adam nodded. "And for yourself, we'll manage with what we have for now," she said firmly. Adam studied her for a moment, then folded the list and tucked it into his pocket. "I'll see that Will gets this. He should be back by tomorrow evening. Thank you." An awkward silence fell between them. Katherine became acutely aware of how close they were standing in the kitchen, of the intensity in Adam's green eyes as he looked at her. "I should check on Samuel," she said, breaking the moment. Adam nodded, stepping back. "Of course, I'll see you at supper." The days fell into a rhythm at Callahan Ranch. Katherine rose with the sun, prepared breakfast for the men, tended to the house, worked in the garden during the afternoons, and cooked dinner in the evenings. Samuel thrived in the open spaces, following Hank around, learning about horses from the ranch hands, and exploring the nearby creek with Scout always at his side. Adam was often gone during the days, riding out with the men to check on cattle, repair fences, or handle the myriad tasks required to maintain a working ranch. But he was always there for meals, and Katherine found herself looking forward to those moments when they would all gather around the table. She learned more about him through observation and the stories the ranch hands shared. Adam Callahan was fair but firm with his men, generous to those in need, and respected throughout the territory. He could be reserved, even distant at times, but showed unexpected gentleness with Samuel, answering the boy's endless questions with patience and taking time to teach him small tasks around the ranch. A week passed, then two. The kitchen was transformed, the main house gradually restored to order. The garden began to show signs of life as Katherine cleared weeds and planted the seeds Will had brought back from town. Her hands grew calloused from work, her skin tanned by the Montana sun. On a warm afternoon in late June, Katherine was hanging laundry behind the cabin when she saw Adam approaching from the stables. He carried something wrapped in brown paper. "Kate," he called. "Do you have a minute?" She secured the last of Samuel's shirts to the line. "Of course." Adam handed her the package. "This came in with the supplies today, for you." Katherine unwrapped the paper to find a length of blue calico fabric, enough for a dress, along with matching ribbon and a packet of needles. "I noticed your dress is wearing thin," Adam said, a hint of awkwardness in his voice. "Thought you might want something new." Katherine ran her fingers over the fabric, touched by the thoughtfulness of the gift. "This is very kind, thank you." "It's practical," Adam said quickly. "Can't have my housekeeper looking shabby," Katherine smiled, seeing through his attempt at practicality. "Of course not. Still, it's a lovely color." "Matches your eyes," Adam said softly, then looked away as if surprised by his own words. "Anyway, I thought you might like it. I do, very much." Katherine held the fabric against herself. "I'll start on it tonight." Adam nodded, visibly relieved that his gift was well received. "Good, that's good." He glanced toward the garden. "The vegetables are coming along nicely." "Yes, we should have fresh greens within a week." "The tomatoes will take longer." "You've worked wonders with that garden, with the whole place, really." Katherine felt a flush of pleasure at his praise. "It's satisfying work, seeing things grow and improve." Adam looked as if he wanted to say more, but the sound of approaching hoofbeats drew his attention. A rider was coming fast down the road to the ranch, dust billowing behind him. "That's Liam," Adam said, frowning. "Something's wrong." He strode toward the approaching rider, Katherine following a few paces behind, the fabric still clutched in her hands. Liam pulled his horse to a stop, the animal lathered and breathing hard. "Boss, there's trouble. Rustlers hit the north pasture, took maybe 20 head. Tom and Will are tracking them, but they're heading for the border." Adam's expression hardened. "Saddle my horse and get the rifles." Liam nodded and rode toward the stables. "Cattle rustlers?" Katherine asked, worry evident in her voice. "Happens out here," Adam replied grimly. "Usually small-time thieves, but occasionally organized gangs." He glanced at her. "Don't worry, we'll handle it." "Be careful," Katherine said, surprising herself with the depth of concern in her voice. Adam's expression softened momentarily. "I will. Keep Samuel close to the house until we return." Within minutes, Adam and the ranch hands were mounted and armed, riding hard toward the north pasture. Only Hank remained behind, shotgun in hand, tasked with protecting the ranch house. Katherine gathered Samuel from where he'd been playing near the creek, bringing him back to the main house where Hank stood watch on the porch. "Rustlers are usually cowards," Hank assured her, seeing her worried expression. "They'll run when confronted. The boss knows what he's doing." "Has this happened before?" Katherine asked, keeping Samuel occupied with drawing at the kitchen table. "Once or twice a year, typically. Small operations trying their luck." Hank's weathered face showed no concern. "The boss will be back by sundown, likely as not." But sundown came and went with no sign of Adam or the men. Katherine prepared dinner, but no one had much appetite. She put Samuel to bed in their cabin, then returned to the main house where Hank kept vigilant watch. "Should we be worried?" she asked directly. Hank hesitated. "It's not unusual for tracking to take time, but I'd have expected word by now." They waited together on the porch, the night growing cooler as the hours passed. Finally, near midnight, they heard riders approaching. Katherine stood, straining to see in the darkness. 4 riders emerged from the night: Will, Tom, Liam, and finally Adam. Even in the dim light of the porch lantern, Katherine could see they were exhausted, and then she noticed Adam was slumped in the saddle, one hand pressed to his side. "Adam," she called out, rushing down the steps. Will reached her first. "He's been shot. Rustlers ambushed us in the canyon." Katherine's heart seemed to stop. "How bad?" "Bullet went clean through his side," Will explained as they helped Adam from his horse. "He's lost blood, but it missed anything vital, far as we can tell." Adam grimaced as his feet touched the ground. "I'm fine," he insisted, though his pallor and the dark stain on his shirt suggested otherwise. Inside, Katherine ordered, taking charge. Hank, hot water and whiskey. Tom, clean bandages, check the cupboard in the kitchen. Liam, help me get him to his room. They managed to get Adam upstairs to his bedroom, a space Katherine had cleaned but rarely entered. He sank onto the edge of the bed, jaw clenched against the pane. Everyone out, Katherine commanded once they'd laid him down. I'll tend to him. The men exchanged glances but didn't argue. When they'd gone, Katherine turned her attention to Adam, her hands steady despite her racing heart. Let me see, she said, helping him remove his blood-soaked shirt. The wound was a ragged hole just above his hip, with a matching exit wound on his back. It was still bleeding sluggishly, but as Will had said, it appeared to have missed vital organs. Could be worse, Adam muttered, his voice strained. Could be better, Katherine countered, examining the wound carefully. You're lucky. She cleaned the injury thoroughly with hot water and whiskey, her touch gentle but firm. Adam hissed when the alcohol hit the open wound but didn't complain. Did you get the rustlers? She asked, partly to distract him as she worked. 2 of them. The others escaped across the border with some of the cattle. Adam's eyes followed her movements. We recovered most of the herd. That's something, at least. Katherine began bandaging the wound. Though I'd rather have all the cattle gone than you shot. The words slipped out before she could stop them. Adam's eyes met hers, surprise evident in their green depths. Would you now? He asked softly. Katherine focused on securing the bandage, avoiding his gaze. The ranch needs you whole and healthy. Samuel has grown quite attached to you as well. And you, Kate? Adam asked, his voice low. Have you grown attached at all? Katherine's hands stilled on the bandage. The question hung in the air between them, fraught with meaning. She found she couldn't lie, not with him looking at her that way, not with the fear she'd felt when she saw him wounded still fresh in her heart. Yes, she admitted quietly. I have. Adam reached for her hand, his touch warm despite his injury. I'm glad to hear it. Because I find myself thinking about you far more than is proper for an employer. Katherine's breath caught. Adam. A knock at the door interrupted whatever she might have said. Hank's voice came through the wood. Everything all right in there? The men are asking after the boss. Katherine pulled her hand away, rising quickly. He'll be fine, she called back, her voice steadier than she felt. The wound is clean and bandaged. She turned back to Adam, who was watching her with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. You need rest, she said firmly. We can talk tomorrow. Adam nodded, though reluctance was clear in his expression. Tomorrow, then. Katherine left him to sleep, joining the anxious ranch hands downstairs to assure them their boss would recover. But her mind remained upstairs with Adam, replaying his words and the look in his eyes when he'd touched her hand. For the first time since arriving at Callahan Ranch, Katherine allowed herself to acknowledge the feelings that had been growing within her feelings she had tried to deny out of caution and propriety. Despite her best efforts to maintain distance, she had indeed grown attached to Adam Callahan. More than attached, and apparently miraculously he felt the same. The next morning found Adam feverish, his wound inflamed despite Katherine's careful cleaning. She spent the day at his bedside, applying cool compresses to his forehead and changing his bandages regularly. By evening, the fever had broken, and Adam slept peacefully. Katherine sat in a chair beside his bed, sewing the blue calico he had given her into a dress. The rhythmic motion of the needle was soothing, giving her hands something to do while her mind wrestled with her feelings. James had been dead only 2 months. Was it disloyal to feel this way about another man so soon? Yet her marriage had been dying long before James took his last breath. The young, romantic love she'd once felt had been steadily eroded by his drinking, gambling, and broken promises. What she felt for Adam was different, built on observation and respect rather than youthful infatuation. She had seen him work alongside his men, teach Samuel with patience, and treat her with unfailing courtesy. He was a man of substance, of character. That's a pretty dress. Katherine looked up to find Adam awake, watching her with clear eyes. How are you feeling? She asked, setting aside her sewing. Like I've been shot, he replied with a wry smile, but better than yesterday. He tried to sit up, wincing at the movement. Careful, Katherine warned, helping him adjust the pillows behind his back. The wound could reopen. Adam settled back, his eyes never leaving her face. You've been taking care of me, of course. You needed tending. Thank you. His voice was soft, sincere, not just for this. For everything you've done since coming here, the house, the garden, the meals, it's become a home again. Katherine felt a warmth spread through her at his words. I've been glad to do it. This place. She hesitated. It's come to mean a great deal to me and its owner. Adam asked, echoing their interrupted conversation from the night before. Katherine met his gaze directly. Its owner most of all. Adam reached for her hand, and this time she didn't pull away. Kate, I know it hasn't been long since your husband passed. I know there are proprieties to consider. But I can't deny what I feel for you. And what is that? Katherine asked, her heart pounding. At first it was admiration for your strength, your determination, then affection, watching you with Samuel, seeing how you brought life back to this place. His fingers tightened around hers. Now it's something deeper, something I haven't felt before. Adam, Katherine began, but he continued, I'm not asking for anything right now, just that you stay, that you give us time to see what might grow between us. Katherine looked down at their joined hands. When you found us at that auction, did you feel this way then? Adam shook his head. No, I saw a woman and child in trouble and had the means to help, that's all. His thumb traced circles on her palm. What I feel now came after watching you rebuild your life, seeing your courage. The honesty in his eyes reassured her. This wasn't charity or pity. Whatever was growing between them had genuine roots. I want to stay, Katherine said softly. Samuel is happy here, and she took a deep breath. I find myself thinking of you in ways that go beyond employer and housekeeper. A smile spread across Adam's face, transforming his features. That's good to hear. But you're right, it's soon. There would be talk. Let people talk, Adam said firmly. What matters is what's right for us, for Samuel. Katherine smiled, feeling a weight lift from her heart. For now, what's right is for you to rest and heal. We have time, Adam. I'm not going anywhere. The days of Adam's recovery brought them closer. Confined to the house, he spent hours with Katherine as she worked, talking about the ranch, his childhood, his dreams for the future. She shared stories of her life before James, of her hopes for Samuel, of the books she loved. Each conversation revealed new connections, new reasons to admire one another. Samuel thrived on the additional attention, proudly showing Adam his drawings, recounting his adventures with Scout, and soaking up Adam's stories of cattle drives and frontier life. The boy had taken to calling him Mr. Adam with a reverence that made Katherine's heart swell. By mid-July, Adam was back on his feet, though Katherine insisted he limit his riding and heavy work. The summer heat had settled over the Montana territory, making the days long and languid. The garden flourished under Katherine's care, providing fresh vegetables for their table. She had finished the blue calico dress and wore it for Sunday dinners, aware of Adam's appreciative glances when she did, one evening. As the sun was setting, Katherine sat on the porch of the main house, shelling peas from the garden. Samuel was already asleep in their cabin, exhausted from a day of helping Hank with the horses. Adam settled into the chair beside her, 2 glasses of lemonade in hand. For you, he said, offering her one. Thank you. The cool drink was refreshing after the hot day. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, the only sounds the rhythmic shelling of peas and the distant lowing of cattle. The sky turned spectacular shades of orange and pink as the sun dipped behind the mountains. I never get tired of that view, Adam said, watching the sunset. It's beautiful, Katherine agreed. So different from Pennsylvania, everything seems bigger here, more vibrant. Do you miss it? The East, Katherine considered the question. I miss certain things, bookshops, theater, the changing of the seasons, but not enough to go back. She looked at him. This feels more like home now than Pennsylvania ever did. Adam's expression softened. I'm glad to hear that. He reached over and took her hand, a gesture that had become natural between them in recent weeks. Katherine set aside her bowl of peas, turning to face him fully. Kate, Adam began, his voice serious. These past weeks, getting to know you, watching you with Samuel, it's made me realize what I've been missing in my life. Katherine's heart quickened. What's that? Family. Connection. Someone to share this place with, to build something lasting. His green eyes held her steadily. "I know it's still soon, and I promise to give you time, but I want you to know my intentions. When an appropriate period has passed, I hope to court you properly with marriage in mind." Though she had suspected his feelings ran in this direction, hearing the words spoken aloud made Catherine's breath catch. "Adam, you don't need to answer now," he said quickly. "I just wanted my intentions to be clear, no more uncertainty." Catherine squeezed his hand. "Thank you for that. And I won't pretend I haven't thought of it as well." She took a deep breath. "James and it wasn't a happy marriage, especially toward the end. I married young, with romantic notions and little understanding of what makes a true partnership." Adam listened intently, his expression serious. "What I feel for you is different," Catherine continued. "It's built on respect, on seeing who you truly are. It feels solid." "That's a good word for it," Adam agreed. "Solid. When the time comes," Catherine said carefully, "I believe my answer will be yes. But you're right, we should observe the proprieties, for Samuel's sake if nothing else." Adam's smile was radiant. "I can wait, knowing that's your inclination is enough for now." He leaned forward slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wished. Catherine didn't move, and his lips met hers in a gentle kiss there first. It was brief but full of promise, sweet and respectful. When they parted, Catherine felt a blush rise to her cheeks, but she didn't regret the moment. It felt right, like a seal on the understanding they had reached. "I should get Samuel's breakfast ready for morning," she said softly. Adam nodded, rising to help her gather her bowl of peas. "Sleep well, Kate. You too," she replied, her heart lighter than it had been in years. As summer gave way to early autumn, life on Callahan Ranch fell into a pleasant rhythm. Catherine and Samuel continued to live in the cabin, maintaining propriety, but spent most of their waking hours at the main house. Catherine's role expanded beyond housekeeper. She helped with the ranch accounts, advised on purchases, and slowly made the house truly her own. Adam was careful to show her respect in front of the ranch hands, but their growing attachment was obvious to everyone. Hank, in particular, seemed pleased by the development, often finding reasons to take Samuel on important ranch business, to give them time alone together. On a crisp September morning, Catherine was in the kitchen preparing jars for preserving the last of the summer vegetables when Adam entered, his expression unusually serious. "Kate, I need to ride into town. There's news I think you should hear." Catherine set down the jar she was holding. "What is it?" Sheriff Barnes sent word. "They've arrested a man named Frank Winters, wanted for fraud in several territories. He was using your husband's identity, claiming to be James Winters." Catherine sank into a chair, stunned. "That's impossible. James is dead." Adam sat beside her, taking her hands in his. "The sheriff says this man has been operating for years, using different names. He had your husband's papers, that's how he knew to claim the Winters identity." But that would mean, Catherine's mind raced. The debt collectors, the auction, they were looking for this fraud, not my James. It seems so. The sheriff wants you to come to town, confirm whether you recognize the man. Apparently he's been passing bad checks, running confidence schemes across the territory. Catherine felt dizzy with the implications. "All this time, I thought it was James's gambling that put us in debt, that he'd lied to me again." "I'll go with you," Adam said firmly. "We can leave Samuel with Hank." The ride to Redemption Creek was tense, Catherine lost in thought as the countryside rolled by. Adam respected her silence, offering his steady presence as support. The sheriff's office was a small wooden building on the main street, the same street where Catherine had stood on the auction block just 3 months earlier. The memory made her shudder as they tied their horses outside. Sheriff Barnes was a gruff man with a handlebar mustache and shrewd eyes. "Mrs. Winters," he nodded. "Appreciate you coming in." "Sheriff," Catherine acknowledged. "Mr. Callahan says you've arrested someone using my husband's identity." "That's right. Been tracking this snake for months. Finally caught him trying to pass a forged bank draft in Helena. Had your husband's papers on him, marriage certificate, deed to a mining claim, that sort of thing." "May I see him?" Catherine asked. The sheriff led them to the cells at the back of the building. A man sat on a narrow cot, his once fine clothes now dirty and rumpled. He looked up as they approached, and Catherine gasped. It wasn't James. This man was older, heavier, with different colored eyes. But there was a superficial resemblance that might have fooled someone who'd never met her husband. "That's not James," she said firmly. "My husband died in a mining accident 3 months ago. I identified his body myself." The prisoner's eyes narrowed. "Never said I was her husband," he protested to the sheriff. "Name's Frank Winters, sure, but I ain't never claimed to be married to her." "Then why do you have James Winters' papers?" Adam demanded. The man shrugged. "Found 'em. Man died in a mining accident, left his things unattended, figured he wouldn't need 'em anymore." "You're a scavenger," Katherine said with disgust. "You stole from a dead man and used his identity to commit fraud." "Business opportunity," Frank countered without shame. Sheriff Barnes led them back to his office. "The territorial judge arrives next week. He'll stand trial then, most likely looking at several years in prison." "What about the debt collectors? The men who forced me to auction myself and my son to pay debts this man created?" Katherine asked, anger rising in her voice. The sheriff looked uncomfortable. "That's complicated, madam. Some of those debts might have been legitimate, your husband's, I mean. Others probably not. Hard to untangle now. Those men threatened me, forced me to stand on an auction block like cattle," Katherine insisted. "There must be some recourse." "I'll look into it," the sheriff promised, though Katherine sensed little would come of it. "For now, I'd suggest you be grateful Mr. Callahan stepped in when he did." Outside the sheriff's office, Katherine paced the boardwalk, trying to process what she'd learned. "All this time, I thought James had left us in terrible debt, that his gambling had put Samuel and me in that position." "Does it change how you feel about him?" Adam asked quietly. "About James, I mean." Katherine considered the question seriously. "He still drank too much, still gambled our savings away more than once, still made promises he couldn't keep," she sighed. "But no, he didn't leave us destitute. That burden, at least, wasn't his." Adam nodded, understanding in his eyes. "Sometimes it's easier to move forward when we can make peace with the past." Katherine looked up at him, struck again by his insight and compassion. "You're right. And knowing this doesn't change where I am now or what I want for the future." "And what is that, Kate?" Adam asked, his voice low. "A life with you," she said simply. "If you still want that." Adam's smile was answer enough, but he added, "More than anything." They rode back to the ranch in lighter spirits, despite the unsettling revelation. Katherine felt as if a weight had been lifted, not just the misconception about James's final actions, but the lingering guilt about moving on so quickly after his death. As the ranch came into view, Katherine felt a surge of emotion. This place had become home in a way no other had been. And the man riding beside her had become essential to her happiness in a way she'd never thought possible again. October brought golden aspen trees and cooler nights to the Montana territory. Katherine had fully embraced her role on the ranch, no longer just a housekeeper but a partner in Adam's endeavors. The men had long since adjusted to taking instructions from her as readily as from Adam himself. Samuel had started lessons with Katherine each morning, learning to read and write at the kitchen table. Adam often joined them, bringing maps and books from his own collection to supplement Samuel's education. "He's quick," Adam observed one evening as they sat on the porch after Samuel had gone to bed. "Picks things up faster than I did at his age. He wants to be like you," Katherine said with a smile. "Yesterday he told Hank he's going to be a rancher when he grows up." Adam's expression softened. "I'd be proud to teach him, if that's what he still wants when he's older." "Adam," Katherine began, something in her tone making him turn to look at her fully. "It's been 6 months since James died," he nodded, understanding immediately what she was saying. In the 1870s frontier, a 6-month mourning period for a widow was considered appropriate when circumstances necessitated it, especially when children were involved. "I've been thinking," Katherine continued. "Samuel and I have been living in that cabin and you in this big house, and it seems unnecessary," Adam suggested, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Exactly," Katherine met his eyes steadily. "I'm ready, Adam, if you still want to marry me." Adam's response was immediate. He knelt before her chair, taking both her hands in his. "Katherine Winters, I've been ready to make you my wife since July. Nothing would make me happier than for you and Samuel to share my home, my name, and my life." Catherine's heart swelled with joy. Then yes, I will marry you, Adam Callahan. He kissed her then, a kiss full of promise and passion, no longer constrained by the limits they had set during her mourning period. When they finally parted, both were breathless. When? Adam asked. How soon can we make it official? Katherine laughed at his eagerness. There's a circuit preacher coming through next week. Is that soon enough? Barely, Adam grinned. I'll ride into town tomorrow, make arrangements. We'll need rings and you'll want a proper dress. I still have the blue calico you gave me, Katherine said. Adam shook his head. That's lovely for Sunday dinner, but for our wedding, I want you to have something special. Will you allow me that? Katherine nodded, touched by his thoughtfulness. Yes, but nothing extravagant. This is a ranch, after all, not a city ballroom. Speaking of the ranch, Adam said, his expression growing more serious. I want to be clear about something. When we marry, everything I have becomes yours as well. The ranch, the cattle, the house, all of it. And I want to adopt Samuel legally if you're agreeable. He should have my name, be my son in every way that matters. Tears welled in Katherine's eyes. You've thought about this. Every day since I realized I loved you, Adam admitted. Both of you. Katherine reached up to touch his face, tracing the scar along his jaw. Samuel already loves you like a father. Having it made legal would mean the world to him, to both of us. Adam captured her hand, pressing a kiss to her palm. Then it's settled. 1 week from now, you'll be Mrs. Callahan, and we'll be a family in truth as well as in our hearts. The news of their engagement spread quickly through the ranch and the surrounding area. Hank was visibly delighted, clapping Adam on the back with uncharacteristic emotion. The ranch hands offered congratulations and immediately began planning what improvements they could make to the property before the wedding. Katherine took Samuel for a walk by the creek to explain the changes coming to their lives. The boy sat beside her on a fallen log, Scouts stretched out at their feet as she carefully told him about marrying Adam and moving into the main house. And Mr. Adam wants to be your father officially, she explained. He wants to adopt you, which means you would have his last name, you'd be Samuel Callahan. How would you feel about that? Samuel considered this seriously, his small face thoughtful. Would he be my real father then, not just pretend? Yes, sweetheart. He would be your real father in every way that matters. Samuel nodded, decision made. I would like that. I think my first father wouldn't mind. He's in heaven now, and Mr. Adam takes good care of us. Katherine hugged him close, amazed at the wisdom in his young heart. Yes, he does. And he loves us very much. I love him too, Samuel said simply, and I like it here. I don't want to leave. We won't, Katherine assured him. This is our home now. The week before the wedding passed in a flurry of activity. Adam rode into town and returned with packages, a beautiful cream-colored dress for Katherine, made of fine wool with lace trim, and a new suit for Samuel. He also brought back gold rings from the jeweler in Helena, wrapped carefully in velvet. Katherine spent her days preparing the house, though in truth it needed little improvement after her months of care. The men built a new fence around the garden and repainted the porch. Hank oversaw the cleaning of the stables and barns as if the animals themselves were wedding guests. The night before the wedding, Katherine sat in the cabin she and Samuel had called home for the past 3 months, packing the last of their belongings. Tomorrow they would move into the main house permanently, as Adam's family rather than his employees. A knock at the door surprised her. Opening it, she found Adam standing there, his expression both nervous and determined. Adam, is something wrong? No, nothing's wrong, He held out a small wooden box. I wanted to give you this tonight before tomorrow's excitement. Katherine invited him in, curious. Samuel was already asleep in the small bedroom, exhausted from the preparations. Adam sat beside her at the table, pushing the box toward her. This was my mother's. My father gave it to her on their wedding day. Katherine opened the box carefully. Inside lay a delicate gold locket on a fine chain. She lifted it out, admiring the intricate engraving on its surface. It's beautiful, she whispered. Open it, Adam urged. Inside, she found a tiny portrait of a woman with Adam's green eyes and kind smile. Your mother, Adam nodded. On one side, the other is empty, waiting for your portrait, and someday, perhaps, you can pass it to our daughter. The words, our daughter, sent a thrill through Katherine. The idea of having more children, of expanding their family with Adam, was something she had thought about but they hadn't discussed explicitly. "You want more children?" she asked softly. "I do," Adam confirmed. "If you do, Samuel is a wonderful boy and I already love him as my own. But yes, I've thought about having more children with you watching our family grow, filling this house with laughter." Katherine closed the locket, holding it against her heart. "I want that too, very much." Adam's smile was tender as he took the necklace from her hands, moving behind her to fasten it around her neck. His fingers brushed her skin, sending a shiver down her spine. "Tomorrow," he murmured, his lips close to her ear. "Tomorrow you'll be my wife." "Tomorrow," she agreed, turning to face him. "And all the days after." Their kiss was a promise of the life they would build together, of the love that had grown between them despite unlikely beginnings, of the family they would nurture on this land they both cherished. The wedding day dawned clear and crisp, the October sky a brilliant blue above Callahan Ranch. The circuit preacher arrived mid-morning, a jovial man who had known Adam's father and was delighted to officiate the ceremony. Neighbors from surrounding ranches began arriving around noon, bringing food and gifts. Katherine was surprised by how many people came: ranchers and their wives, townspeople from Redemption Creek, even Sheriff Barnes made an appearance. "Word gets around," Hank explained with a wink. "First wedding at Callahan Ranch in 20 years. Folks wouldn't miss it." The ceremony took place at 2 o'clock on the front porch of the main house. Katherine wore the cream wool dress Adam had bought her, her mother-in-law's locket around her neck, and wildflowers in her hair. Samuel stood proudly at her side in his new suit, holding the rings on a small cushion Hank's sister had sewn for the occasion. Adam waited for her, his eyes never leaving her face as she walked toward him. He looked handsome in a new black suit, his hair neatly trimmed, his expression one of undisguised joy. The preacher's words were traditional but heartfelt as he spoke of commitment, partnership, and love. When it came time for the vows, Adam took Katherine's hands in his voice clear and strong as he promised to love, honor, and protect her all the days of his life. Katherine's own vows were spoken from the depths of her heart, acknowledging the unusual beginning of their relationship, but emphasizing the genuine love that had grown between them. "With this ring, I thee wed," Adam said, sliding the gold band onto her finger. Katherine repeated the words, placing the matching ring on his hand. The preacher pronounced them husband and wife, and Adam kissed her to the cheers and applause of their assembled guests. The celebration continued into the evening, with music provided by neighbors who had brought fiddles and guitars. Tables laden with food stretched across the yard, and lanterns were lit as the sun began to set. Adam and Katherine moved among their guests, accepting congratulations and well wishes. Sheriff Barnes approached them as the party was winding down. "Mrs. Callahan," he said, tipping his hat to Katherine, "wanted you to know the judge sentenced Frank Winters to 5 years in the territorial prison. He won't be troubling anyone for a while." "Thank you for letting us know," Katherine replied, "and for coming today. Wouldn't have missed it," the sheriff said, turning to Adam. "You got yourself a fine woman, Callahan, and from what I hear, she got herself a good man." Adam's arm tightened around Katherine's waist. "I certainly got the better end of the deal, Sheriff." As the last guests departed and the ranch hands began cleaning up, Adam took Katherine's hand, leading her away from the lights and noise to a quiet spot near the creek. The full moon silvered the landscape, catching in the water as it flowed past. "Happy, Mrs. Callahan?" Adam asked, drawing her into his arms. "Very," Katherine replied, resting her head against his chest. "It was a perfect day." "The first of many," Adam promised, lifting her chin for a kiss. Later that night, after Samuel had been tucked into his new room in the main house, and the celebration had ended, Katherine and Adam stood in the doorway of the master bedroom, now their bedroom. The enormity of the day's events seemed to catch up with them both, creating a moment of sweet anticipation. "I never expected this," Katherine admitted softly. "When you found us at that auction, I never imagined we would end up here." Adam brushed a strand of hair from her face. "I didn't either. I just knew I couldn't let them sell you like property. I couldn't ride away." "Thank God you didn't," Katherine whispered, stretching up to kiss him. Adam lifted her into his arms, carrying her across the threshold into their room, into their new life together. In the years that followed, Callahan Ranch flourished under their joint care. Samuel grew into a strong, capable young man with his mother's kindness and his adoptive father's determination. He was joined by two sisters and a brother the family Adam and Katherine had dreamed of creating together. The blue calico dress hung in Katherine's closet, preserved as a reminder of new beginnings. Sometimes, she would touch the fabric and remember that day by the laundry line when Adam had awkwardly presented it to her, the first tangible sign of his affection. On their 5th wedding anniversary, Adam took Katherine back to the spot by the creek where they had stood on their wedding night. The ranch had expanded, the house had been enlarged, and their family had grown, but the essential things remained unchanged: their love for each other, their commitment to the land and the life they'd built. Do you ever think about that day in Redemption Creek? Adam asked, his arm around her shoulders as they watched the sunset. The auction, Katherine considered the question. Sometimes it was the worst day of my life, and yet, Adam prompted. It led me to you, Katherine said simply. To this home, this family, this life I love so dearly, so I can't truly regret it, not anymore. Adam pulled her closer, pressing a kiss to her temple. When I said come home with me that day, I had no idea I was finding my own home in you. Katherine smiled, leaning into his embrace. Home isn't always a place, is it? Sometimes it's a person, or people, Adam amended, thinking of their children waiting back at the house. A family. The Montana sunset painted the sky in shades of gold and crimson as they walked hand in hand back to the ranch house, back to the home and family they had built together from the most unlikely of beginnings. In the distance, they could hear their children's laughter, the most beautiful sound in the world to both their ears. What had started with an act of decency, and courage, a cowboy unwilling to see a mother and child sold like cattle, had blossomed into a love story that would be told in their family for generations to come. A story of rescue and redemption, of second chances and new beginnings, of finding love in the last place either of them expected. And as they reached the house, with Samuel running out to meet them and their younger children clamoring for attention, Katherine and Adam exchanged a look of profound gratitude for the twist of fate that had brought them together, and for the love they had built, day by day, on the solid foundation of respect, admiration, and unwavering commitment to each other. In the wild Montana territory, where life was often harsh and unforgiving, they had created something rare and precious. A true partnership, a genuine love, a family bound not just by circumstance or necessity, but by choice and devotion that would last all the days of their lives.